Hey guys, Dr. Jesse Cease here at Health Fit Chiropractic and Sports Recovery in Boca Raton, and today we're going to talk about hip flexors. Believe it or not, hip flexors are one of the more common indirect causes or secondary causes of low back pain, and I'm going to show you why. So it all revolves around where the hip flexors actually live. So the hip flexors originate from the front of the lumbar spine, L1 to L5, okay, and they come down and they attach to the proximal part of the femur, the upper part of the femur, or the hip joint, as you may know. And the job of the hip flexors is to actually bring the hip into flexion, right? Believe it or not. So when the hip flexors are tight, right? So we have tight hip flexors. Maybe you sit all day at work or you have a long commute. But we see this a lot in patients who are sitting for a prolonged period of the day. What we'll see is chronic tightness, and that will actually tug on this lumbar spine. So it'll pull that spine into what we call flexion, this bent forward position. Extension, this bent forward position, and it will jam all of these facet joints in the back together. It'll put some pressure on these disc joints in the spine. So very common indirect cause of low back pain can be the hip flexors. And here's a quick at-home stretch that you can do to see if your hip flexors may or may not be an issue, okay? So what we'll do is we'll actually have our patients kind of sit forward a little bit on the table here, and we'll have them grab one of their knees. So we're gonna grab the opposite knee of the hip flexor we're kind of looking at. So I'm gonna grab my left knee, and I want you to keep an eye on my right hip, okay? So what we wanna see is when the patient lies back like this, their hip flexors staying straight on the floor like this. Their hip leg is staying straight on the table like this, okay? So the problem here, a bad hip flexor or a tight hip flexor will look like this. So as the patient grabs their knee, they're actually going to lean back and their hip will kind of come off the table like this. This is a good indicator of a tight hip flexor, and it could be a cause of that kind of chronic nagging low back pain that you're dealing with. So if this is something that you think you've been dealing with, feel free to reach out to us via Instagram message, hop on our website, or reach out to us via email, or give a call to our Boca Raton office.